In today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to cut and sew a modesty panel or a cover for your loop. So your loop can either be open or covered with a modesty panel. In my last video, I drafted out this pattern paper and I'm using the same pattern paper to cut on my fabric, leaving my seam allowance. So in the last tutorial, I took 2 inches from the back, the upper part of the back. So what I'm going to do now is to go in by 2 inches on the down, and I'm just going to connect so that the down and the up can be even. So I'm going to cut that out. So this is my back. I don't want a V shape for this for the back of this top. I want it to be straight. That is why I had to trim out 2 inches from the base of the back. So after doing that, I went ahead to cut out my lining, and I also went ahead to iron paper stay on my fabric to give it strength. So you can go ahead and iron your hair stay to your fabric. I use the paper gun because I don't have hair stay. The next thing I'll do is to determine how much space I want for my loop. So I want it to be 4 inches. So I'm going to add extra 4 inches to this 4 inches. I'll make it 8 inches to cut out my modesty panel. I'll also measure from the beginning to the end of my center back, and what I have is 11 inches. This will help me determine how long my modesty panel should be. So I'll be using this satin fabric for my modesty panel. I'll fold it into 2 equal halves like this, and for the side I said I wanted it to be 4 inches. I'll be adding 4 extra inches to it, making it 8 inches. That is what I have. For the length of my back piece is 11 inches. I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch so that I can use half an inch to attach my lining to the down part of the top and to the upper part of the top. So I'm going to cut out 10 inches. After marking out, I'll cut out. So what I have for the length is 10 inches and the wideness is 8 inches. So this is enough for my modesty panel. So what I'll do is to turn it like this, right sides facing each other. I'm going to sew on the up, I'll sew on the down, and I'll leave the side open. I'm done sewing and this is what it looks like. So what I'll do now is to use the side that is open, the side that I did not sew. I'm going to use that part to turn it to the right side like this. After turning it to the right side, what I'll do is to bring back my 2 back pieces like this, and I'm going to attach my yoke to my top. So my top has a yoke. If yours does not have a yoke, what you're going to do next is to create a rope that you'll be using for your loop. So what I'll do next is to create what I'll use for my loop. So this is my fabric that I folded into 2 and I ironed. So I'm going to fold it again and I'll run a straight stitch on it. I'm going to use that to create my loop. So I've gone ahead to do that. I'm going to start cutting. So for the length of the loop, I want it to be 3 inches each. So I'm going to use my tape to mark 3 inches. I'll cut out and I use that one to cut the rest. So you can cut as many as you want depending on the length of your top or your dress. So I'm done cutting. Next thing I'll do is to start placing my loop on my top like this. So I'm going to go down by half an inch from the upper part of this top, just like this. I'll mark that and I'll take one of my loop, I'll fold it into 2 like this, and I'll place it on that line just like you see me doing. After placing it, I'll go ahead and pin it down. And then from that point, I'm going to go down by half an inch. So it depends on how opened you want the back to be. You can decide to go down from the first loop by 1 inch and 1.5 inch. It totally depends on how you want it. But for this one, I'll be going down by half an inch. I'll go down, I'll make the mark there, and I'll take another loop, I'll place it on that mark and I'll pin it down. After doing that, I'll keep repeating the same thing till I get to the end of this fabric. And the same thing I did for the upper part, I'm going to leave half an inch also, so that I'll have a space to join my lining to this main fabric. So guys, I'm done attaching the loop to the back. I also did the same thing for the other side of the back, and I left half an inch on the base and on the up. What I'll do next is to cover this up with my fabric like this, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to determine where I want my modesty panel, the part of the back where I want my modesty panel to be. So I'm going to place the modesty panel on one part of the back, just like you see me doing. So make sure your modesty panel is not placed on the half an inch that we left to sew our lining to our main piece. So after placing it like this, I'm going to sew on the upper area, the side and the down, because this is a top, this is not a dress, so I want to close the down part up. So I'm going to sew. The only part I'll leave open is the side. After sewing, I'll go ahead and notch all the way around, and I'll turn everything to the right side. So guys, I've gone ahead to turn it inside out, and I've also gone ahead to iron so that everything lays flat. So this is the part that has the modesty panel, and this is the other side. The next thing you do is to add boning if you want to. So from the loop, you can just measure 1 inch or half an inch. It depends on how wide your boning is. You run a straight stitch and you pass the boning through the base. So if you are doing this method, do not close the base before adding your boning, but I'm not going to do that in this tutorial. So the next thing I did was to cut out a very long rope. I also folded it in form of a bias, the same thing that we did to cut out our loop. So I'm going to lace my loop like this. So guys, I'm done lacing my loop, and this is what it looks like. So this is what the modesty panel looks like inside. If you open it up like this, you can see that everything is neat and clean. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of this tutorial. Please like this video, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. I'll see you guys in the next one.